That is what you deserve. Those words still echo in my ears. Not loud, not screamed. Calm, cold, like someone closing a door inside your chest and locking it from the outside. My name is Zenobia Washington. I am 59 years old. And this is the story I kept locked inside my silence for months, until staying quiet hurt more than telling the truth. It happened at my son's wedding reception, a ballroom dripping in luxury, crystal chandeliers. White roses stacked taller than my shoulders, money everywhere, and me, I was just there. The music had just died down. People were laughing, glasses clinking, forks scraping plates. Then suddenly, splash. A bowl of piping hot gumbo came flying straight at my face. I didn't even have time to blink. The heat hit first, then the burn, spices in my eyes, thick broth soaking my ivory silk blouse. My skin screamed. But my mouth stayed shut, because what hurt more than the soup was the smile. Serafina, my son's new mother-in-law, standing right in front of me, chin lifted, calm, satisfied, like she'd waited years for this moment. That is what you deserve, she said again. Slow, firm, the entire room froze, 200 guests suddenly studying their plates like they held the secrets of the universe. No one rushed forward, no one defended me, not a single voice. Except one, my son Orion, my only child, the boy I raised alone, the boy I worked myself sick for. He sat at the head table, arms crossed, and said in a deep, steady voice, "She's right, Mama." I felt the floor disappear beneath me, not physically, emotionally, like gravity stopped caring. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't ask why. I picked up a linen napkin, slowly wiped the burning gumbo from my face, stood up. My hands were shaking, but my back straight as steel. I walked toward the double doors without saying a word. Each step felt like I was leaving a lifetime behind. But right before I exited, I did something no one expected. I reached into my clutch, pulled out my phone, dialed a number I had saved weeks ago, and said just 3 words, "It's time." Then I hung up. Closed the door softly behind me. No one followed, no one asked anything. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove through the dark streets of Atlanta toward my quiet apartment in the West End. As the city lights blurred past me, one question kept looping in my head: how did I get here? Because once upon a time, Orion used to hug me tight and say, "You're my hero, Mama." There was a time when I believed a son's love was forever. A time when I trusted without question. But that night, with my face burning and my heart broken wide open, I learned a truth that changes you forever. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who betray you the deepest. And sometimes silence is the only weapon you have left. What happened after that phone call is something they will never forget. But to understand why I made it, why I stayed calm instead of screaming, I need to take you back. Back to the life I built with my own 2 hands, back to the boy Orion used to be, back to the moment everything first started to crack, before that night, before the gumbo, before my son looked at me and chose someone else. My life was simple, not easy, not glamorous, but it was mine. 3 years earlier, I lived in a roomy apartment in the West End of Atlanta, nothing fancy, but it had a small balcony where I kept red geraniums and bougainvillea, plants I watered every morning like clockwork. That routine grounded me, coffee at 7 a.m. strong, no sugar, sweet potato pastries from Mr. Henderson's bakery on the corner, then downstairs to open my tailoring shop. Same building, same keys, same smell of fabric and steam. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't begging either. Orion's father left when my son was 5. No drama, no long goodbye, just one day gone, and I learned something early in life. A woman can hold an entire household together with her own 2 hands if she has no other choice. I learned how to stretch a dollar, how to sew through exhaustion, how to smile when your back hurts and your fingers bleed. I made wedding gowns for women who would never invite me to sit at their tables, prom dresses for girls whose mothers spoke to me like I was invisible, church blouses for ladies who wanted elegance without noise, and I listened. Because fabric talks, and so do people. Orion grew up watching all of it. He saw me wake before sunrise, saw me finish rush orders at 2 a.m., saw me cry quietly over my grandmother's old Singer machine, then wipe my face and keep going. "Mama," he'd say while I packed his lunch, "when I grow up, I'm gonna work hard so you can rest." And I believed him, because back then Orion was a good boy, respectful, affectionate, serious in a sweet way. He did his homework without being chased. On Sundays, he helped me clean the shop, asked questions about colors, textures, stitching. "How do you know what someone needs, Mama?" "Because people tell you," I'd say, even when they don't use words. When he got accepted into Morehouse College for business administration, I cried for 3 days straight. Every sacrifice suddenly made sense. I worked double shifts, triple shifts. I sewed dresses for weddings I'd never be invited to. I saved every dollar, refused loans, refused help, because I wanted my son to graduate without owing anyone his soul. And he did, graduated with honors. Got hired at a top real estate firm, started wearing suits I tailored myself, bringing me flowers every Sunday, kissing my forehead. Everything I am is because of you, Mama. That's why what came next hurt so badly. Because it didn't start ugly, it started beautiful. Her name was Clementina. The first time Orion talked about her, his voice changed, softened. She's special, Mama, really special. Clementina was from Buckhead, old money. Her father owned a chain of hardware supply stores. Her mother, Serafina. Even before I met that woman, I felt her shadow. When Orion told me they wanted to introduce me to Clementina's parents, I dressed carefully. A navy blue dress, hand-embroidered collar, my mother's pearl earrings. I wanted to show respect. The restaurant was one I would never choose, too quiet, too expensive, waiters gliding instead of walking. Clementina arrived first, white dress. Perfect posture, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Polite, cold. Then Serafina arrived, tall, controlled, eyes sharp like she was constantly measuring people. She looked at me like she already knew my worth and had decided it wasn't enough. We talked about harmless things, whether interior design, wedding ideas, even though they'd only been dating 6 months. Then Clementina said something that stuck in my chest. My mother is anxious to meet you, Miss Zenobia. I've told her so much about you. The way she said my name, like it needed permission to exist. Orion squeezed my hand under the table. I smiled. I wanted to believe him. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something whispered inside me, this girl is lying, and her mother is worse. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner was just the opening act. Because 3 months later, I walked into Serafina's house in Buckhead, and that's where everything truly began to fall apart. 3 months later, they invited me to dinner, at their house. That was the first time I realized something was wrong. Not uncomfortable, not awkward, wrong. Serafina's house sat on a quiet Buckhead street where the trees were manicured and the sidewalks never cracked. A house that didn't feel lived in. It felt displayed. When Orion pulled into the circular driveway, my chest tightened. The house was massive, stone exterior, tall windows, lights glowing warm but somehow still cold. Money lives differently. It doesn't welcome you, it tests you. Serafina opened the door herself. 2 air kisses, no touch. Zenobia, how nice to see you. Her smile was practiced. Her eyes were not, come in, make yourself at home. But I didn't feel at home. I felt like I'd stepped into someone else's territory. Clementina came down the stairs moments later. Pink dress, perfect hair. Miss Zenobia, you look lovely. Still Miss Zenobia. Always Miss, never Mama, never Zenobia. Her father, Reginald, barely acknowledged me. Large man, heavy Scotch, eyes already glazed like he'd checked out of life years ago. He grunted and went back to his armchair. Dinner was served by a young housekeeper, quiet, eyes down. She moved like she was trying not to exist. Serafina didn't look at her once. More water, bring the bread. No please, no thank you. I smiled at the girl when she set my plate down. She glanced up for half a second, grateful. Then gone, the table sparkled with crystal and silver. Food arranged like art. Conversation, that's where the knives came out. Serafina talked about the country club, vacation plans, a new SUV. Because you can't just drive anything, right, Zenobia? She laughed lightly. I nodded. What was I supposed to say? Clementina touched Orion's arm. When we get married, he'll need a bigger car. She wrinkled her nose slightly. That one is modest. My stomach twisted. Orion bought that car himself, worked hard for it. I watched him do it. I think Orion knows what works for him, I said calmly. The table went quiet. Serafina looked at me for the first time, really looked. Oh, of course, she said. That's why I'm sure he'll make the right choices for his future. She lifted her wine glass for his new family. Orion said nothing, just kept eating. Head down, and that's when I understood something that broke my heart a little. He was letting them erase me. The wedding talk started. Cathedral, St. Regis reception. Nothing too flashy, Serafina said, while describing a wedding that cost more than my annual income. No one asked my opinion, not once. Then she turned to me suddenly. And what do you think, Zenobia? It wasn't curiosity, it was a test. It sounds beautiful, I said softly. What matters is that they're happy. Exactly, she smiled. Happiness without burdens, that word hung in the air. Burden. Clementina went to the restroom. Reginald dozed off, and Serafina leaned toward me, voice low, sharp. Zenobia, I'll be direct. I know you've done a lot for Orion, but now it's time for him to focus forward, not backward. My son has never been burdened by me, I said. She smiled wider. Oh no, of course not. But emotional dependence can be just as heavy. You're a smart woman, you'll know when to step aside. That was the moment, the exact second, I understood she wasn't competing with me. She was replacing me, dessert came, creme brulee, I didn't taste it. Before we left, she handed me a small box, a little something. Inside was a fine china teacup, white, gold rim, cold, I thanked her. But when I got home, I didn't use it. I made coffee in my old stoneware mug instead, the one that knew my hands, the one that knew my life. And as I stared at that untouched china cup, one question took root inside me. How far would this woman go to push me out of my son's life? I didn't know the answer yet. But soon, I would learn just how cruel and calculated Serafina truly was, because after that dinner, my son started disappearing. After that dinner in Buckhead, nothing exploded right away. That's how it always starts. No big fight, no dramatic goodbye, just distance. Quiet, polite, deadly distance. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that this was normal. That sons grow up, that weddings take time, that I was being sensitive, but my heart knew better. A mother always knows when her child starts pulling away. Orion used to come by every Sunday, every single one, rain or shine. He'd bring pastries from Mr. Henderson's bakery. We'd eat, laugh, talk about his week. He'd help me move furniture, fix loose hinges, complain about work, normal life, our life after Buckhead. Sundays became busy. Sorry, Mama, Clementina and I already had plans. Then it became every other Sunday, then once a month, then just texts, short ones, cold ones. Hope you're good, talk later, crazy week. Always Clementina, always her family, always something. I stopped calling first, not to punish him, but because I was tired of hearing myself beg for scraps of attention. One afternoon, I was hemming a navy blue gown when my phone buzzed. Orion, my heart jumped like it always did. Mama, he said, sounding rushed, we're stopping by tonight. I smiled without realizing it. You're coming here? I asked. Yeah, Clementina wants to see the shop. Something about that sentence felt off, but I ignored it. Hope is stubborn. They arrived late. Clementina walked in first. High heels, perfume too expensive for a sewing shop. She looked around like she was inspecting a museum. Oh wow, she said. So this is it. This is where I work, I replied. She nodded politely, but her eyes told the truth. This wasn't impressive to her. She picked up a dress I was working on, ran her fingers over the stitching. Huh, you still sew everything by hand? Yes, I said. Good work always takes time. She smiled thinly. Well, I guess. Orion stood near the door. Hands in his pockets, quiet, almost uncomfortable, like he didn't belong here anymore. Clementina cleared her throat. So I wanted to talk about something. I turned to her. Yes, she smiled sweetly. The wedding, my heart lifted. Finally, we've decided to keep it intimate, she said. Very curated, just close family. I waited. She didn't continue. Of course, I said slowly. What can I help with? She hesitated, then said it. Well, my mom is handling most of it. And honestly, she thinks too many voices complicate things. I looked at Orion. He didn't meet my eyes. I see, I said quietly. Clementina stepped closer, lowered her voice like she was doing me a favor. Don't take it personally, Miss Zenobia. It's just different worlds. Different worlds. That was the phrase. The one Serafina loved. They left 10 minutes later. No hugs, no lingering, just polite smiles and a door closing behind them. That night I sat alone with my coffee. Stoneware mug, same view, same silence, but something inside me cracked. A week later, Orion called, excited. Mama. We picked the venue. That's wonderful, I said. Where is it? The cathedral downtown. Pause, and the St. Regis for the reception. I waited. He didn't say anything else. So when is the rehearsal dinner? I asked. Another pause. Oh, that's just immediate family. Immediate. And am I? I started. Mama, he cut in quickly. It's not like that. But it was exactly like that. The invitations went out. I saw photos online. People posting elegant envelopes, gold lettering, RSVP cards. Nothing came for me. When I finally asked him directly, his voice changed, defensive. Mama, why are you making this hard? I didn't make anything hard, I said. I just asked a question. Well, it's stressful enough without drama. Drama. I had become drama. A week before the wedding, he invited me to dinner, just the two of us. I felt hope again, against my better judgment. I dressed carefully, a burgundy dress I made myself, pearl earrings, simple, dignified. I arrived early, waited. When Orion walked in, Clementina was with him. Sorry, Mama, he said. She wanted to come. Of course she did. Dinner felt like a business meeting. Clementina talked about Bora Bora, the condo her father was gifting them. 3 bedrooms, terrace, Buckhead view. Then the check came. Orion looked at it, then at me. Mama, can I borrow 2,000? The words hit me harder than any insult. For wedding stuff, he added quickly. I'll pay you back next month. I didn't have 2,000, but I handed it over anyway, because that's what mothers do. Even when it hurts, he never paid me back. And that night, sitting alone again, something became painfully clear. I wasn't being pushed out, I was being used. I still didn't know the worst part. I still didn't know that behind my back, my son was keeping a secret so twisted it would make everything else feel small. After that dinner in Buckhead, nothing exploded right away. That's how it always happens. No yelling. No slammed doors, no dramatic goodbye, just distance. Quiet, polite, deadly distance. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that this was normal, that sons grow up, that weddings take over lives, that I was being emotional. But a mother knows, we always know. Orion used to come by every Sunday, rain or shine, didn't matter if he was tired, didn't matter if work was stressful, he showed up. He'd bring pastries from Mr. Henderson's bakery, sweet potato turnovers, sometimes apple. We'd eat at the small table by the window. He'd tell me about his job, office drama, dreams. I'd listen. That's what we did. That was our rhythm after Buckhead. Sundays turned into excuses. Sorry, Mama, we already had plans. Plans, always Clementina. Then it became every other Sunday, then once a month, then just texts, short ones. Dry ones, messages that felt copied and pasted. Hope you're doing well, crazy busy, talk soon. Soon never came. I stopped calling first, not to punish him, but because I was tired of begging for attention from my own child. That kind of rejection ages you, quietly. One afternoon, I was hemming a navy blue gown when my phone buzzed. Orion, my heart still jumped, even after everything, that part of me hadn't learned yet. Mama, he said, sounding rushed. We're stopping by tonight, I smiled without realizing it. You're coming here? I asked. Yeah, Clementina wants to see the shop. Something about that sentence didn't sit right, but hope is stubborn. They arrived late, of course. Clementina walked in first, high heels clicking against the floor, perfume thick enough to choke the air. She looked around slowly, like she was inspecting an exhibit. Oh, wow, she said. So this is it. This is where I work, I replied calmly. She nodded politely, but her eyes told the truth. This place embarrassed her. She picked up a dress I was working on, ran her fingers over the stitching. You still do everything by hand? Yes, I said. Good work takes time. She smiled, that tight smile people use when they don't respect you. Well, I guess. Orion stayed near the door, hands in his pockets, quiet. Almost uncomfortable, like he didn't belong here anymore. Clementina cleared her throat, so I wanted to talk about something. I turned toward her. Yes, the wedding. My heart lifted, finally. We've decided to keep it intimate, she said. Very curated. Curated. That word always comes with exclusion. Just close family. I waited. She didn't continue. What can I help with? I asked gently. She hesitated. Then said it. Well, my mom is handling most of it. I nodded slowly. And honestly, she continued, lowering her voice, she thinks too many opinions complicate things. I looked at Orion. He didn't meet my eyes. I see, I said quietly. Clementina stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. Don't take it personally, Miss Zenobia. That title again, Miss Zenobia. It's just different worlds, different worlds. Serafina's favorite phrase. They stayed 10 minutes, 10, no hugs, no warmth, just polite smiles and a door closing behind them. That night, I sat alone with my coffee, stoneware mug, same view, same silence, but something cracked. A week later, Orion called, excited, Mama, we picked the venue. That's wonderful, I said. Where? The cathedral downtown. Pause, and the St. Regis for the reception. I waited. He didn't add anything. When's the rehearsal dinner? I asked. Another pause. Oh, that's just immediate family. Immediate. And am I started. Mama, he cut in quickly. It's not like that. But it was exactly like that. The invitations went out. I saw them online, gold lettering. Elegant envelopes, everyone posting, everyone excited. Nothing came for me. When I finally asked him directly, his tone changed, defensive. Mama, why are you making this hard? I didn't, I replied calmly. I asked a question. Well, it's stressful enough without drama. Drama, that's what I had become. A week before the wedding, he invited me to dinner, just the two of us. Hope tried again. Against my better judgment, I dressed carefully. A burgundy dress I made myself, pearl earrings. I wanted him to feel proud. I arrived early, waited, then Orion walked in with Clementina. Sorry, Mama, he said. She wanted to come. Of course she did. Dinner felt like a business meeting. Clementina talked about Bora Bora, the condo her father was gifting them. 3 bedrooms, terrace, Buckhead view. Orion smiled. I nodded. Then the check came. Orion looked at it, then at me. Mama, can I borrow 2,000 for wedding stuff? He added quickly. I'll pay you back next month. I didn't have 2,000, but I gave it to him anyway, because that's what mothers do, even when it hurts. He never paid me back. And that night, sitting alone again, something became painfully clear. I wasn't being pushed out, I was being used. And still, I didn't know the worst part. I didn't know that behind my back, my son was keeping a secret so twisted it would make everything else feel small. Because 2 days later, a plain envelope would arrive at my shop, and inside it was proof that my son hadn't just abandoned me, he had crossed a line no mother ever expects her child to cross. I didn't sleep that night, not even a minute. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city outside my window, replaying every conversation, every pause, every look Orion had given me over the past year. Every time he avoided my eyes, every time he rushed me off the phone, every time Serafina smiled like she already knew the ending. By morning, my chest felt heavy, not pain, pressure. Like my body was bracing for something my mind wasn't ready to face. I opened the shop anyway. Routine is a kind of survival. I brewed coffee in my stoneware mug, the same one I'd had for years, same chipped edge, same comfort. Around noon, the bell above the shop door rang, but it wasn't a customer. A young man stood there in a delivery vest, clipboard in hand, neutral face, no eye contact. "Zenobia Washington?" he asked. "Yes, package for you." "I need a signature," I signed without thinking. Took the envelope, closed the door. It was heavier than paper should be. Thick, manila, no return address, just my name written neatly in black ink. That's when my stomach dropped. Because bad news always arrives like that. Quiet, unannounced, polite, I locked the door, pulled down the blinds, sat in the chair behind my sewing table. My hands were already shaking. I slid my finger under the flap, opened it. Photographs spilled out, glossy, professional, high quality. At first, my brain didn't register what I was seeing, just shapes, colors, movement. Then my heart recognized him. Before my mind did, Orion, my son, in a restaurant, laughing. Leaning close to someone, I picked up the photo, tilted it, zoomed in. The woman beside him was elegant, older, hair styled perfectly, jewelry understated but expensive. My breath caught. No, 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 no. I grabbed another photo. Then another, a parking garage, Orion's hand on her lower back. Intimate, familiar, another photo, hotel entrance. The St. Regis, nighttime. Orion opening the door for her. Another, a balcony, city lights behind them. His arms wrapped around her from behind, her head tilted back against his chest. That's when I recognized her. Not as a stranger, not as a possibility, as Serafina, my son, with his fiancée's mother. The room tilted. I slid out of the chair and onto the floor. Photos scattered around me like broken glass. I didn't scream, didn't cry, I couldn't. My body shut everything down just to survive. When I finally reached the bathroom, I barely made it to the toilet before everything came up. Coffee, breakfast, hope. I stayed there a long time, cold tile, shaking hands. The tears came later, in waves I couldn't control. No, I kept whispering, this can't be real. But the photos didn't lie, the angles were clear. Dates printed on the back, times, locations. This wasn't one mistake, this wasn't confusion. This was ongoing, calculated, hidden. Suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the money, the silence. Serafina's quiet hostility toward me. I wasn't just unwanted, I was in the way. I gathered the photos slowly, carefully, like they might explode if I moved too fast. Put them back into the envelope, sat at my sewing machine, stared at the needle. My hands had stitched thousands of dresses, wedding gowns, promises sewn into fabric, and my own son had been stitching lies behind my back. I thought about Clementina, young, hopeful, trusting. She had no idea. She was about to marry a man who was sleeping with her own mother, and suddenly the humiliation I'd endured felt small compared to what was coming for her. I looked at the clock, then at the envelope, then at my phone. There was a number saved there. A private investigator a client had once mentioned, said he uncovered infidelity, said he was discreet, said he was expensive. I dialed. Booker Hughes Investigations, a calm voice answered. "My name is Zenobia Washington," I said. "I need the truth." There was a pause. "Tell me what you know." I looked at the envelope, at the photos, at the life I thought I knew. "My son," I said slowly, "is sleeping with his fiancée's mother." Another pause, longer. "I need proof," I continued. "Dates, money, everything." Silence. "Then I'll need names." Orion Washington. "Serafina Vance. I'll send you a contract. Do it." When I hung up, my hands were steady, not calm, resolved, because once you see something like that, you don't unsee it, and you don't go back. That night, I sat by the window again, stoneware mug in my hands, city lights flickering below. I wasn't crying anymore. I was thinking, planning, waiting, because now I knew something they didn't. And sometimes, knowing is the most dangerous thing of all. I thought the photos were the worst thing I'd ever see. I was wrong. The private investigator's email arrived 2 days later. No subject line, just my name. Seeing it appear on my screen made my chest tighten, like my body already knew what my mind didn't want to face. I closed the shop early that day, pulled the blinds down, locked the door. I sat at my small table with my laptop open and my coffee untouched, stoneware mug, cold now. I stared at the screen for a long time before clicking. Once you open something like that, there's no going back. The email was short, professional, direct. Miss Washington, I've confirmed the relationship you suspected. What I've uncovered goes beyond an affair. We need to meet in person. This is not something I recommend discussing over email. Beyond an affair. Those words settled heavy in my chest. I called him immediately. We should meet, Booker Hughes said calmly. Today, if possible. Where? I asked. There's a coffee shop in Decatur. Quiet, no cameras inside. I'll be there. I wore simple clothes, nothing noticeable, nothing memorable. When your world is about to crack open, the last thing you want is attention. Booker Hughes was already seated when I arrived. Mid-50s, plain jacket, reading glasses, the kind of man you'd never look at twice, which is exactly why he was good at what he did. He didn't waste time. Before I show you anything, he said, I need you to understand something. I nodded. What you're about to see will change how you look at your son. My throat tightened. I already don't recognize him. Booker shook his head slowly. You think you don't? He slid a thick folder across the table. Photos, documents, printouts. Your son and Serafina have been involved for over a year and a half, he said. A year and a half, before the engagement, before the dinners. Before the smiles, this apartment, he continued, pointing to a photo, is leased under a shell company. Payments come directly from Serafina's personal account. I closed my eyes. She wasn't just sleeping with him. She was funding him. He turned another page. Bank transfers. Large ones. 10,000, 20, 50. What is that? I whispered. Payments, Booker said flatly. The word hit harder than any insult. My son wasn't just betraying his fiancée. He was being kept. And there's more, Booker said. Of course there was. There's always more. He slid another stack of documents toward me. Financial records, mortgage filings, court notices. Serafina's husband is broke, he explained. Completely, the business is collapsing. The Buckhead house is drowning in debt. My stomach churned. So the money, I said slowly, isn't real, Booker finished. It's a performance. I leaned back in my chair. Everything I'd been made to feel small over was a lie. And Clementina, I asked. Booker's expression shifted, careful, measured. She inherited several $1 million from her grandmother, he said. The money is held in trust. Until when? Until marriage, the words dropped like stones. And if something happens to her after marriage, I whispered. Booker nodded once. The spouse inherits. The room felt too tight, too small. You're saying, I began. I'm saying this isn't just an affair, Booker replied quietly. It's a setup. I stared at the table, at my hands. Hands that had sewn dresses for honest people. Hands that had raised a child, my son. My only son, do you have proof? I asked. Booker hesitated, then reached into his bag. There's audio, he said. My heart stopped. I placed a recorder in the Midtown apartment, he continued. I shouldn't have. It's illegal, play it, I said. The device clicked. Static, then voices. Orion's voice, nervous. What if Clementina finds out? Serafina's voice answered, soft, calm, deadly. She won't, she said. She sees what she wants to see. A pause. Then you marry her, we wait, accidents happen. I couldn't breathe. I can't, Orion said. You can, Serafina replied. And you will, because I love you and I know what you deserve. Silence. Then my son spoke again, low, broken. Okay, Booker turned the device off. The coffee shop felt unreal, too bright, too normal. My son had agreed to marry a woman under false pretenses, agreed to let her be harmed, agreed to destroy lives for money. What do I do? I whispered. Booker looked at me carefully. You have two choices. Go to the police, he said, or wait. And if I go to the police, your son goes to prison. The words cut deeper than anything else that day. I had raised him alone, loved him fiercely, and now I was holding evidence that could destroy him. And if I wait, I asked. Booker met my eyes. Then you choose when the truth comes out. I thought of Clementina, that young, trusting smile. The trap closing around her. I won't let her be hurt, I said firmly. Booker nodded. Then you'll need to act carefully. I stood up, gathered my purse, my breath, my dignity. What happens next? I asked. Booker's voice was calm. The wedding, I left that coffee shop feeling like I was walking in someone else's body. The city looked the same. People laughed, cars honked. Life kept moving. But mine had split in two. On one side was the mother. The woman who raised a boy alone, who stitched her pain into fabric and never complained, who still loved her son even after everything. On the other side was the truth, cold, sharp, unforgiving. And I couldn't pretend it didn't exist anymore. I drove home slowly, hands tight on the steering wheel. Every red light felt longer than it should have. I kept hearing Orion's voice in my head. Okay, that one word haunted me. When I reached my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, stoneware mug in my hands, coffee untouched. I asked myself the question every mother dreads. Where did I fail him? Was it when his father left? When I worked too much, when I didn't show him enough softness? Or was this something no mother could prevent? I replayed every memory, the scraped knees, the late nights studying together, the way he used to kiss my cheek before bed. That boy wouldn't hurt someone for money, but the man he'd become, I wasn't so sure. I slept maybe an hour, woke before dawn, and by sunrise I knew one thing: I wasn't going to the police. Not yet, because prison would end Orion. And despite everything, I wasn't ready to bury my son alive. But doing nothing, that would destroy Clementina, and that wasn't an option. I needed leverage, I needed timing. I needed someone with power who loved Clementina enough to protect her. That's when I thought of Cornelius Estrada, her grandfather, the old man with rough hands and kind eyes. The only person in that family who had ever spoken to me like I mattered. I found his card in my wallet, worn, bent at the edges. I stared at it for a long moment before dialing. "Cornelius Estrada," he answered. "It's Zenobia," I said quietly. There was a pause. "Are you all right, child?" "No," I said honestly. "I need to talk to you in person." He didn't hesitate. "Come to my house." His place in Inman Park smelled like old books and coffee. Comfort, honesty. He listened without interrupting. Didn't raise his voice, didn't deny, didn't defend anyone. When I finished, he leaned back slowly, closed his eyes, then whispered something that shook me. "My granddaughter is in danger." "Yes," I said, "and my son is part of it." Cornelius looked at me, not with anger, with sorrow. "Why didn't you go to the police?" he asked. I swallowed. "Because he's still my son." He nodded once. "That doesn't make you weak," he said quietly. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. "I will protect Clementina." "What about Serafina?" I asked. His jaw tightened. "That woman is not my daughter anymore." We made a plan, quiet, legal, precise. He would freeze the trust, pull Clementina out, bring in lawyers, doctors, protection, and I would do my part. "You still have to attend the wedding," Cornelius said. I looked up sharply. "What? You are the trigger," he continued. "When Serafina shows her true face, that's when we act." I understood then. This wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure. I went home lighter, not because things were fixed, but because I wasn't alone anymore. The days before the wedding passed in a blur. Orion didn't call. I didn't reach out. I sewed, prepared, waited. The night before the wedding, I laid my dress out carefully. Simples, navy blue, dignified. I stood in front of the mirror, looked at the woman time had tested but not broken. "I will not beg," I whispered. "I will not scream, I will stand." Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is wait. The wedding day arrived calm and beautiful, too beautiful, and when Serafina finally showed her true face, it would be in front of everyone. Once the plan was set, the hardest part began. Waiting. People think action is hard. It isn't. Waiting is harder. Waiting is where your mind turns against you. I went back to my routine, opened the shop every morning, sewed hems, pressed seams, smiled at customers, answered questions like nothing was wrong, but inside, I was holding a bomb and pretending it wasn't ticking. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Every time it stayed silent, my chest tightened. Orion didn't call, not once. No check-in, no apology, no curiosity, nothing. And that hurt more than any argument ever could, because silence is a choice, and he was choosing it. I wondered if he knew I knew. If Serafina had warned him, if he sensed something coming. Sometimes I imagined confronting him, screaming, throwing the photos in his face, asking him how he could do this to me, but I never did. Because confrontation would only push him deeper into her grip. Serafina thrived on chaos, on drama, on emotional reactions, so I stayed calm, still, invisible. A few days before the wedding, Clementina called me. The surprise nearly made me drop the phone. "Miss Zenobia," she said softly. "Yes, Clementina. I just wanted to check in," she said. "Make sure you're okay." Her voice sounded tired, thin, like someone holding herself together by force. "I'm fine," I replied. "And you, how are you feeling?" She hesitated. "I don't know," she admitted. "Everything feels fast." I swallowed. "Weddings can feel like that." There was a pause. Then she asked something that nearly broke me. "Orion still visits you, right?" The lie sat on my tongue, but I didn't say it. "No," I said quietly. "Not much anymore." Another pause, longer. "He's been different lately," she said. "Distant, secretive." I closed my eyes. "Yes, baby, because he's hiding a monster. You should talk to him," I said carefully. "I try," she replied, "but he always says I'm imagining things." I wanted to tell her everything right then. Right there, but Cornelius's words echoed in my head. "Timing matters. I'm sure everything will make sense soon," I said instead. She thanked me, hung up. I sat there shaking, because that call reminded me what this was really about. Not revenge, not humiliation, protection. 2 nights before the wedding, Orion finally called. 11:47 p.m. "Mama," he said. His voice sounded strained. "What is it?" I asked calmly. "Are you coming to the wedding?" he asked. Of all the things he could have said, that was it. Yes, I replied. I'll be there. A pause. You don't sound excited. I'm tired, I said honestly. Another pause. Then, almost defensively, you should be happy for me. I smiled sadly. I am, but happiness doesn't mean blindness, he sighed. Good, I just wanted to make sure. Before hanging up, he added, please don't make a scene. That's when I knew. He was afraid, not of me, of the truth. That night I barely slept. I laid out my dress, pressed it carefully, folded it neatly. I stood by the window with my coffee, stoneware mug in my hands, city lights glowing below. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't praying for peace. I was praying for strength. Because the next day I would walk into a room full of people who thought they knew the story, and I would carry the truth alone. The wedding day would look perfect, elegant, joyful, untouchable, but perfection is fragile, and by the end of that night, every lie would come apart. The wedding day arrived calm, too calm, the kind of calm that makes your skin itch because you know it's lying to you. The cathedral downtown looked like something out of a magazine, white roses everywhere, tall candles. Soft music echoing off stone walls, money dressed up as holiness. I arrived alone, no escort, no one saving me a seat, just me. They placed me in the fifth row, not the front, not even close. Far enough that I could see everything, but close enough that I couldn't disappear. Clementina's family filled the right side, row after row of them, designer dresses, perfect hair, confident smiles. On the left, three people, me. A distant cousin of Orion's I barely knew, and an aunt who kept checking her phone. That was it, that was Orion's side. I sat straight, hands folded, face calm. Inside, a storm. Then the music shifted, everyone stood. Orion walked down the aisle, tall, handsome, wearing a suit I knew he didn't pay for. For a split second, I saw my son again, the boy, the one who used to run toward me after school. The one who said, Mama, you're my hero. Then I saw her, Serafina, sitting in the front row, champagne-colored dress, jewelry catching the light. She watched Orion like he belonged to her, not like a mother, like a woman claiming what's hers. And Orion, he glanced at her, just for a second, and smiled. That smile erased every doubt. Clementina entered next, radiant, beautiful, pure happiness written across her face. She had no idea she was walking into a lie. No idea her future was built on betrayal. I gripped my purse tighter, because in that moment I understood something painful. I wasn't just a guest, I was a witness. The priest spoke about love, about honesty, about commitment. Every word felt like mockery. When Orion said his vows, his voice didn't shake. I promised to love and respect you, to protect you, to be truthful, truthful. I almost laughed, almost. Clementina cried tears of joy. Serafina dabbed her eyes like she was proud. I stayed still, silent, watching. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Applause filled the cathedral. People stood, smiles everywhere, except me. I stayed seated. Because I knew this wasn't the end. The reception was at the St. Regis. Luxury stacked on luxury. White roses again, crystal glasses, a live orchestra, everything screaming perfect. They seated me at a back table, far from the head table. Far from Orion, far from Clementina. I didn't complain, didn't move, didn't react, because I wasn't there to be seen. Dinner came and went. 5 courses, I barely tasted anything. Then the dancing began. The newlyweds first, applause, tears. Phones in the air, then the DJ announced, and now a special dance between the groom and his mother. Every head turned. Orion looked at me for the first time that day. He walked over, extended his hand. Mama, I took it. As we stepped onto the dance floor, people smiled, whispered, took pictures. This looks good, Orion said quietly, for appearances. I met his eyes. Is that all this is to you now, appearances? His jaw tightened. This isn't the time. When is it ever the time? I asked softly. We swayed, slow, close, like nothing was wrong. You look beautiful, Mama, he said. Thank you, I replied. You look expensive. He exhaled sharply. Please don't start. Start what? I asked. The truth? His grip tightened on my hand. You don't know what you're talking about. I leaned closer, lowered my voice. I know everything, Orion. His body stiffened. The music kept playing. Smiles frozen around us. What are you talking about? He whispered. I know about the apartment, the hotels, the money, and Serafina. His face drained of color. Mama, you're confused. I'm not, I said calmly. I have proof. He stopped dancing, let go of my hand. The music didn't stop, but the air changed. What did you just say? He hissed. Before I could answer, Clementina appeared. What's going on? She asked, breathless. Then Serafina stepped between us, her smile gone, eyes sharp. Zenobia, she said coldly, I think it's time you leave. Leave, after everything. That's when she reached for the nearest table, grabbed a bowl. I didn't move, didn't flinch. The gumbo hit my face like fire, and she smiled. That, she said clearly, is what you deserve. The room went silent, and then my son crossed his arms and said, She's right, Mama. That was the moment everything broke. But what they didn't know was that I had already made a call. and what happened after I walked out of that ballroom would destroy everything they thought they controlled. The silence after those words was louder than the orchestra had ever been. That is what you deserve. And then, she's right, Mama, my son's voice, flat, cold, final. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't ask why. Because when humiliation reaches a certain level, something strange happens. Pain stops being sharp, it becomes clear. I reached for a linen napkin, not frantically, not shaking, slow, deliberate. I wiped my face, hot broth, oil, spices burning my skin. I wiped it all away with the last dignity I had left. Around me, people froze. No one moved. No one helped. Some stared at their plates. Some stared at their phones. Some stared at me like I was a spectacle. Clementina was crying, real tears. She kept saying my name. Miss Zenobia, I don't understand, Mama. What's happening? Serafina stood tall, satisfied, like she had finally won something. Orion wouldn't look at me. I stood up, slowly, straightened my dress, ignored the sting on my face. Then I turned and I walked. Each step toward those double doors felt heavy, but also freeing, because with every step, something inside me hardened. I reached the doorway, stopped, not to look back, not to beg. I reached into my clutch. Pulled out my phone, my fingers didn't shake. I had practiced this moment 1,000 times in my head. I dialed the number, pressed it to my ear, and said 3 words, "It is time." Then I hung up, no explanation, no emotion, just truth. I opened the doors, walked into the night, and closed them quietly behind me. No one followed. The valet brought my car. I got in, started the engine. As I pulled away from the St. Regis, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face was red, my eyes calm, my mouth set. I didn't look like a victim. I looked like a woman who had reached her limit. The drive home was silent, streetlights passing, Atlanta breathing, normal life going on. I kept hearing Orion's words in my head. She's right, Mama, not because they hurt, but because they explained everything. I reached my apartment, went inside, locked the door. The dress went straight into the trash. I didn't hesitate. I took a shower, let the water run hot, watched the spices wash away. When I stepped out, I put on my old cotton pajamas, the ones with the loose thread on the sleeve, the ones that had seen me through everything. I brewed coffee. Same stoneware mug, same ritual. I sat by the window, waited, because I knew what was coming next. At 11:07 p.m., my phone rang. I answered. Zenobia, Cornelius Estrada said calmly, "It's done." My chest tightened. What happened? I arrived at the hotel with my lawyers and 2 police units. My breath caught. I asked to speak with my granddaughter privately, and I showed her everything. Silence. She fainted. I closed my eyes. Is she okay? She's at the hospital now, stable, sedated. My heart broke for her. And Serafina? I asked. Cornelius's voice hardened. She tried to deny everything. Of course she did, but the proof is undeniable. And Orion, he stood there, Cornelius said slowly, silent. Empty, like a man who realized too late what he sold his soul for. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. The marriage will be annulled immediately, Cornelius continued. The trust is frozen, and Serafina, there will be charges, I exhaled. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, not smiling, not celebrating, just breathing, because justice doesn't feel like victory. It feels like closure. I slept that night deep, without dreams. The next morning, the world exploded. Videos from the reception were everywhere, people whispering, speculating, judging. By noon, Orion's name was everywhere. By evening, Serafina's was worse, and yet I said nothing, because my silence was louder than any interview. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door, soft, hesitant. I knew before I opened it. Orion stood there, unshaven, eyes hollow. "Hands empties, Mama," he whispered. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I didn't see my son. I saw a man who had to face himself. I didn't move right away. That knock on my door wasn't loud, it wasn't demanding. It was hesitant, almost ashamed. I already knew who it was. A mother always knows. I stood there for a long moment, my hand resting on the edge of the table, my coffee cooling beside me. Stoneware mug, same one, same weight, different life. The knock came again, softer this time. "Mama," his voice cracked through the door. That word, that single word, it still had power. I opened the door. Orion stood there looking like someone life had emptied out, unshaven, wrinkled clothes. Eyes sunken and red, no confidence, no posture, no armor. He didn't step inside, didn't assume, didn't reach for me. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I looked at him. Really looked, not the groom, not the businessman. Not Serafina's favorite toy, just a tired man who had lost everything. I stepped aside. He entered slowly, like he wasn't sure he belonged. The shop smelled like fabric and coffee, comfort, normalcy. Things he hadn't valued until they were gone. He sat in the same chair where I had once opened that envelope. The chair where my life had cracked open. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. I didn't respond. Silence is uncomfortable for people who have lived off manipulation. I lost my job, he continued. They asked me to resign. I nodded. The condo, it never existed, he said bitterly. It was all debt. Still, I said nothing. He swallowed. Mama, I messed up. That wasn't enough. I let someone convince me you were the problem, he said, that you were holding me back. That one landed. I hated seeing where I came from, he admitted. I hated being reminded of you working so hard. I finally spoke, so you erased me. His head dropped. Yes, silence returned. Then he said the words I knew were coming, the words every fallen child eventually says. Can I stay here? I closed my eyes, just for a second, not because I was tempted, but because it hurt. No, I said calmly. He looked up sharply. Mama's no, I repeated, not today. Not tomorrow, I have nowhere else, he whispered. I did, I replied, when your father left and I survived. That's different, he said desperately. No, I said softly, it's exactly the same. He stood up, anger flared. You're punishing me. No, I corrected. I'm stopping the cycle. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. I raised you to stand on your own feet, I continued, not to climb on the backs of women. His jaw tightened. I loved her, he muttered. No, I said firmly. You loved what she gave you. Silence again. Then he broke. He cried, not pretty, not dramatic, just a man realizing he was empty. I don't know how to start over, he said. You start small, I replied. You work, you struggles, you feel shame, and you learn. And you, he asked, where do I fit in your life now? That question hurt more than the gumbo. I don't know yet, I answered honestly. That depends on who you become. He nodded slowly. I understand, he said. He walked to the door, paused. I'm sorry, Mama, he whispered, for everything. I know, I said. The door closed behind him. I didn't cry, not then. Because grief sometimes waits. Weeks passed. The scandal spread. Serafina was arrested. Reginald lost the house. The trust was frozen. The marriage annulled. And Clementina, she went silent until one afternoon, she knocked on my shop door. Not as a bride, not as a victim, as a woman. Miss Zenobia, she said softly. May I come in? I smiled. Of course, child, she sat, hands shaking. I didn't know, she said, about any of it. I know, I replied. You saved me, she whispered. No, I said gently. I told the truth, that's all, she cried, and I held her, because sometimes the family we lose creates space for the family we choose. Life didn't rush back to normal. It never does after something breaks open. It just rearranges itself quietly. Days passed, then weeks. My shop reopened like always. Scissors still cut, fabric still obeyed. Needles still knew where to go, but I was different. People whispered. I could feel it when customers walked in. Some recognized me from the video, some pretended they didn't, some looked at me with pity. I didn't explain, I didn't defend. I didn't correct, I let silence do the talking. Clementina started coming by once a week. She never called ahead, just knocked softly, sat in the corner, watched me sew. You don't have to come, I told her once. I want to, she said. This place feels safe. I understood. She didn't talk much, but when she did, it was honest. About therapy, about nightmares, about how betrayal doesn't scream, it whispers until your whole world tilts. One afternoon, while I was adjusting the hem of a bridesmaid dress, Clementina asked, Do you ever miss him? I didn't answer right away. Yes, I said finally, but missing someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you again. She nodded like she needed to hear that. 3 months passed, then 4. One rainy Tuesday, when business was slow and the sky felt heavy, the mail slot clinked. I didn't rush, bills always wait, but one envelope stood out, handwritten, uneven, familiar. My name written carefully, Zenobia Washington. My hands went still. I knew before opening it. I sat down, stoneware mug in reach, breathed once, twice, then I opened it. Mama, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. But I needed to write. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to come home. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know the truth. I lost everything, and I deserved to. I live in a rented room now. I work nights at a factory. I walk to work because I sold the car. I'm tired, and for the first time in my life, I'm honest. I see now how I used you, how I hid behind you, how I let someone poison me because it made me feel powerful. I don't feel powerful anymore. I feel small and scared and ashamed. And maybe that's where I needed to be. I don't blame Serafina anymore. She didn't force me. I chose, and that's the hardest truth. I don't expect you to reply. I don't deserve your kindness. I just wanted you to know, every day, I remember the woman who raised me with nothing but dignity. And I'm trying slowly to become a man she wouldn't be ashamed of. I love you, always. Orion, the room went quiet, not empty, heavy. I didn't cry, not right away. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in the drawer with important things, and I went back to work, because forgiveness doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like dawn, slow, uncertain, quiet. That night I dreamed of Orion as a child, bare feet, sticky fingers, laughing. I woke up with tears on my pillow. 2 weeks later, Clementina came in holding her phone. They're offering a plea deal, she said. For my mother, I nodded. She asked about you, Clementina added. She asked why you didn't testify. I kept sewing. Why didn't you? Clementina asked softly. Because I didn't need to, I said. The truth spoke for itself. Clementina watched me for a long moment. You're stronger than you think, she said. No, I replied. I'm stronger than I used to be. Another month passed. Orion didn't write again, and I didn't reach out, not because I was angry, but because growth needs space. One morning, Cornelius stopped by unannounced. He looked older, thinner, but peaceful. She's being sentenced next week, he said. I nodded. She asked to see you, he added. That caught me. Serafina? I asked. Yes, he said. She claims she wants closure. I laughed softly. There's no such thing, I said. There are only consequences. Cornelius studied me. You've changed, he said. So has the world, I replied. After he left, I sat by the window longer than usual, thinking about revenge, about justice, about love, about the thin line between letting go and holding on too long. That night, I took Orion's letter out again, read it slowly. Every word, then I did something I hadn't planned. I took out a blank piece of paper and picked up a pen. I stared at the blank page for a long time, pen hovering, hand steady, heart not. Writing back to your child after betrayal isn't like writing a letter. It's like deciding who you're willing to become next. I could forgive him. That would be easy for the world to understand. People love forgiveness. They clap for it. They post quotes about it, but forgiveness without accountability, that's just surrender dressed up as kindness. So I didn't write fast, I didn't write soft, and I didn't write angry. I wrote honest. Orion, I read your letter, every word. More than once, I won't tell you I forgive you, not because I hate you, but because forgiveness isn't a gift you ask for, it's something you earn with time. I believe you're hurting, I believe you're ashamed, I believe you're trying. But trying is not the same as changing. You didn't just betray me, you erased me. You let someone convince you that your mother was an obstacle, not a foundation. That kind of damage doesn't disappear because life finally got hard for you. I will not rescue you. I will not comfort you. I will not soften the consequences. That doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I love you enough to let you become the man you should have been all along. If one day you stand in front of me without excuses, without blaming anyone, without asking for anything, then maybe we talk. Until then, live with your choices, grow from them, and know this: I didn't fail you, you failed yourself. Mama, I folded the letter, didn't cry, didn't shake, and for the first time since everything collapsed, I felt strong without feeling cruel. I mailed it the next morning, no tracking, no confirmation, he didn't need proof. That afternoon, Clementina showed up with red eyes. She was sentenced, she said, 12 years, I nodded. She asked for me, Clementina continued. She asked if I hated her, and I asked. I told her no, Clementina said. I told her hate would mean she still mattered. I smiled. That girl had grown. A week later, Cornelius called. They're moving her to a different facility, he said. She requested one visitor. Not me, I replied calmly. No, he said. She asked for you. Silence stretched. Why? I asked. She said you were the only one who saw her clearly. I exhaled softly. Seeing someone clearly doesn't mean you owe them anything. But that night I couldn't sleep, not because I wanted to go, but because I realized something unsettling. Serafina hadn't destroyed my life. She had exposed it, exposed the cracks, the blind trust, the way I had overgiven and underprotected myself, and part of healing is confronting the source. So 2 days later I went. The prison was colder than I expected. Gray, quiet, stripped of illusion. She walked in wearing beige, no jewelry, no makeup, no power. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time she looked small. You came, she said. Yes, I replied, but not for you, she flinched. I just want to understand, she said. How you won. I leaned forward slightly. I didn't win, I said. I survived. You mistook control for strength. I chose dignity, she swallowed. You took everything from me. No, I corrected. You gambled everything and you lost. She studied me with hollow eyes. Do you think he'll ever forgive me? I don't think about you anymore, I said. And that's your real punishment. I stood. She reached for the glass. I loved him, she whispered. No, I said calmly. You owned him. Love doesn't destroy families. I walked out without looking back. Outside, the air felt cleaner. That night, Orion texted for the first time. One sentence. I got your letter. I didn't reply. Weeks passed. Business improved. My hands felt lighter, my breath steadier. Clementina moved forward. Cornelius smiled more. And Orion stayed silent. Until one evening, months later, as I locked up the shop, I saw him across the street. Watching, not approaching, not hiding, just there, our eyes met. He nodded once, respectful, distant. I nodded back and walked away. The phone rang at 6:42 a.m. That time matters, because calls before 7 a.m. are never casual. They don't bring good news. They don't bring just checking in. They bring truth or consequences. Or both. I stared at the phone. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out. Almost. Something in my chest told me not to, so I answered. Mrs. Washington? Yes, this is Detective Harris with the Fulton County DA's office. My stomach dropped. I need to ask you a few questions regarding your son, Orion Washington. I closed my eyes. Here it was. Is he in trouble? I asked calmly. There was a pause. That depends on how honest you're willing to be. They always say that. He explained slowly, carefully. They had reopened parts of the case, not Serafina's, not Clementina's, not the trust, my son's. We have reason to believe, the detective said, that Orion may have known more than he previously disclosed. I felt heat crawl up my spine. There are financial transactions, he continued, communications, timelines that don't align with his statements. I said nothing. Silence is powerful when you let it be. We'd like you to come in, he said. Today, if possible. Am I required to? I asked. No, he replied, but your cooperation could significantly affect the outcome. There it was, the wait, the choice. After the call ended, I sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched. Hand steady, heart loud, I knew exactly what this meant. If I spoke honestly, fully, my son could face charges. Not rumors, not shame, prison, and the world expects mothers to protect their children, no matter what. Especially mothers like me, women who sacrificed, who struggled, who are expected to understand. But something had changed in me. I wasn't the woman who cleaned up messes anymore. I was the woman who stopped pretending messes didn't matter. I thought about Clementina, her face when she learned the truth, the way her hands shook, the years it would take her to trust again. I thought about Serafina, her smile, her entitlement, her cruelty, and then I thought about Orion, not the man, the boys who once cried because he lied about homework, the boy who confessed everything because guilt ate him alive. Where had that boy gone? And did protecting the man he became dishonor the child he once was? At 9:15 a.m., I put on my coat. At 9:40, I walked into the DA's office. Detective Harris was younger than I expected, late 30s, tired eyes. Neutral voice, we're not here to hurt you, he said. We're here to understand. Then listen carefully, I replied, because I will not lie for anyone, not even my son. I told them everything, not emotionally, not angrily. Factually, dates, words, patterns, what I knew, what I suspected, what I feared. When I finished, the room was quiet. The detective exhaled. You realize, he said slowly, that this could lead to charges. Yes, I replied. And you should know something else. What's that? If you ask me to lie to protect him, I will refuse. He nodded, respect. 2 days later, Orion called, for the first time since the letter. Mama, he said, voice cracking. They talked to me. I know, I replied. Why didn't you warn me? He asked. Because this isn't something you avoid, I said. It's something you face. There was silence. Then, do you hate me? I closed my eyes. No, I said. But I refuse to save you from becoming who you are. They might charge me, he whispered. I know, I'm scared. So was I replied, when your father left, when I raised you alone. When I watched you walk away from me, he cried, not loud, not dramatic, broken. Tell me what to do, he begged. I took a breath and said the hardest thing I've ever said to my child. Do the right thing, I told him. Even if it costs you everything. He didn't respond. The call ended. Weeks passed. The DA deliberated. Evidence was reviewed. Statements cross-checked. In the end, they didn't charge him, not criminally. Insufficient proof of direct intent. Enough suspicion to destroy his reputation. Not enough to put him behind bars, and that strangely was worse. He was free, but marked. No job would touch him. Friends disappeared. His name became a warning. One afternoon, Clementina asked me something unexpected. Do you think he can change? She asked quietly. I considered the question carefully. Change isn't about regret, I said. It's about responsibility. And responsibility hurts. She nodded. Thank you, she said, for not lying, for not choosing comfort over truth. I squeezed her hand. That night I looked at myself in the mirror. Lines, gray hair, steady eyes. I didn't see a woman who lost a son. I saw a woman who refused to lose herself. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, just my name, handwritten, careful, controlled. I stood at the door for a long time before picking it up, because after everything I'd been through, I had learned something important. Bad news doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly, pretending to be ordinary. I brought it inside, set it on the table, didn't open it right away. I made coffee first, stoneware mug, same one, same ritual. Some habits survive everything. When I finally slid my finger under the seal, my breath caught. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed formal, legal, notice of intent to relocate. My eyes scanned the page once, then again, then slower. Orion Washington proposed relocation. Seattle, Washington effective date, 60 days from notice reason, employment opportunity Seattle, across the country, as far as he could go without leaving the country. My chest tightened not from panic, from recognition. Running, he was running. At the bottom of the page was a short handwritten note, not long, not dramatic, just 6 words. I need to start over. I sat down, hard. For months I had told myself I was prepared for anything, prepared for silence, prepared for distance, prepared for loss, but I hadn't prepared for this. Leaving doesn't always mean escape, sometimes it's surrender. That night Cornelius came by. He brought pastries like always, but I barely touched them. He's leaving, I said. Cornelius read the notice slowly, then nodded. I wondered when he would. You think this is good? I asked. For him, Cornelius said carefully, maybe, and for me, I asked. He met my eyes. That depends on what you need to believe. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying memories. Orion at 6, begging me not to turn off the nightlight. Orion at 12, pretending not to cry when he scraped his knee. Orion at 22, holding his diploma like proof he mattered. Was I supposed to let him disappear? Was that strength or fear dressed up as principle? At 3:17 a.m. my phone buzzed, a text from him. I didn't want you to hear it from someone else. I stared at the screen. Typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. Finally I wrote, why Seattle? The reply came quickly, too quickly. He'd been waiting, no history there, no expectations. No one knows my name. I closed my eyes. You can't outrun who you are, I whispered to the empty room. The next day Clementina called. I heard, she said gently. From who? My grandfather, she replied. He still checks court filings. Of course he does. What do you think? She asked. I thought carefully before answering. I think people move when staying feels unbearable. And do you think he's changed? She asked. There it was, the question everyone asked, the question no one could answer. I think, I said slowly, that change isn't proven by distance. It's proven by consistency, she exhaled. I'm glad you're still you. So am I said, and I meant it. 2 days later, Orion showed up at the shop, unannounced. Again, he stood in the doorway, not stepping in, not stepping back. I didn't know if you'd want to see me, he said. I didn't know either, I replied. But here we are. He looked thinner, healthier, tired in a different way. I got a job offer, he said. Not fancy, logistics. Warehouse management, honest work, I said. He nodded. Hard work. Silence filled the shop, not hostile, just heavy. Why Seattle? I asked. He hesitated, then said the truth. Because everywhere here I'm that guy, the groom, the scandal. The warning, and there, I asked, there I'm nobody. I studied his face, really looked at him. Nobody is a beginning, I said, but it's also a temptation. To do what? He asked. To hide, I said. His shoulders sagged. I'm not hiding, he said quietly. I'm trying not to drown. I walked to the counter, poured coffee, offered him a cup. He hesitated, then accepted. That mattered. I didn't come to ask for permission, he said. I came to ask if this makes me a coward. I took a long sip, thought carefully. No, I said, it makes you human. He swallowed. But I continued, what you do next decides everything. He nodded. I don't know if I'll ever earn your forgiveness, he said. That's not your job right now, I replied. Your job is to earn your own respect. He looked like he wanted to say more, like he wanted to beg, like he wanted to collapse. But he didn't, and that mattered too. I leave in 3 weeks, he said. I nodded. He stood, paused, then asked the question he'd been holding inside. Will you come see me off? My chest tightened. I don't know, I said honestly. He nodded. Fair. He left without touching anything. No hug, no apology, no promise, just quiet footsteps fading down the street. That night I sat with my coffee, again, always, and I realized something I hadn't expected. Letting go doesn't always feel like relief. Sometimes it feels like standing still while someone else walks into the fog. The days after Orion's visit felt stretched thin, like time itself was holding its breath. He didn't call. Didn't text, didn't pass by the shop again, and strangely, neither did I reach out, not because I didn't care, but because caring too loudly would have pulled me backward. People think distance is cold. It's not. Distance is discipline. One afternoon, Clementina came by unexpectedly. No makeup, loose sweater, hair tied back. She looked lighter. How are you holding up? She asked. I shrugged. Learning to sit with unanswered questions. She nodded. Grandpa says that's how real healing starts. We sat together among fabric rolls and quiet machines. Then she asked something I hadn't expected. Do you think he's afraid of you? I looked at her. Why would you ask that? She hesitated. Because when someone knows they disappointed the one person who loved them without conditions, that fear hits deeper than shame. Her words landed heavy. I think, I said slowly, he's afraid of becoming the man he already was. 2 days later, Cornelius called. He asked me for advice, he said. About leaving? No, Cornelius replied. About staying honest, that surprised me. He wanted to know, Cornelius continued, if starting over meant erasing his past or carrying it properly. And what did you tell him? I told him running only works if you run toward responsibility, Cornelius said. Not away from it. That night sleep wouldn't come. I kept thinking about the wedding, the soup, the silence, the words that broke me, and I realized something uncomfortable. I had forgiven myself, but I hadn't decided what to do with my love. 3 nights before his flight, the shop bell rang late, almost closing time. My heart sank, then steadied. Mama, Orion said. This time his voice didn't shake. He stood fully inside the shop. No hovering, no hesitation. I won't take much of your time, he said. I need to say something before I leave. I didn't interrupt, didn't invite him to sit, just listened. I told everyone I was manipulated, he began. And that part is true, pause, but not all of it. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent. I knew the money mattered, he admitted. I didn't know how far she'd go, but I knew enough. There it was, the truth, no excuses. No softening, I didn't stop it, he said, and that's on me. Yes, I replied calmly. He swallowed hard. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. I just couldn't leave without being honest with you. I looked at him closely. Really looked, this wasn't desperation. This was accountability, late but real. You know why this matters, I said. He nodded. Because lies rot whatever grows after them. Silence filled the shop, heavy, necessary. I'm not going to prison, he continued, but I'm not free either. No, I said, you're not. He took a breath. I changed my flight. To where? I asked. Birmingham, he said. I didn't want you to feel obligated to come. That hit harder than expected. Why tell me? I asked. Because if you show up, he said softly, I want it to be your choice, not guilt. I respected that. More than he knew, he stood. Didn't ask for a hug, didn't ask for comfort. That mattered. I love you, he said. No matter what you decide. I met his eyes. That's how love should be, I said. He paused at the door. One last thing, he said. Yes, do you think people like me deserve second chances? I stood slowly, walked closer, stopped short. Second chances aren't handed out, I said. They're proven quietly over time when no one's watching. He nodded. And left. That night I didn't drink coffee. I sat in silence and understood something painful and true. Letting go isn't one decision. It's choosing restraint every time your heart wants to reach back. The morning Orion left, I woke up before the alarm. 5:11 am, the sky outside my window was still dark, quiet in that way only early mornings are, like the world hasn't decided who it's going to be yet. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. No coffee, no ritual, just listening to my own breathing. I told myself I didn't need to go, that staying home would be easier, cleaner, safer. But life has a way of asking one last question when you think you're done answering. At 6:03, I put on my coat, not the nice one, the old one, the one that knew me. The drive to the station felt unreal, too quiet, too smooth. Every red light felt like a chance to turn around. I didn't. The platform was already busy. People hugging, people rushing, people pretending they weren't scared. I spotted him immediately, standing alone, one bag, hands in his pockets. Waiting without looking, I stopped a few steps away, didn't call his name, didn't want to startle him. He turned anyway, like he felt me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then his shoulders dropped, not in relief, in acceptance. You came, he said quietly. I didn't come to say goodbye, I replied. I came to say something else. He nodded, didn't interrupt. I can't promise forgiveness, I said. Not now, maybe not ever. I understand, he said. And he meant it, but I also won't pretend you don't exist, I continued. I won't erase you to protect myself, he swallowed. You're going to mess up again, I said. That's life, I know, he whispered. But if you ever become the kind of man who hides again, I added, we're done, completely. He met my eyes. No hiding, he said. I'm not here to rescue you, I continued. And I'm not here to punish you. Then why are you here? He asked softly. I paused, then said the truth. Because love doesn't disappear just because trust breaks. Tears filled his eyes. He didn't wipe them away. That mattered. I don't deserve you, he said. None of us deserve our parents, I replied. We earn what comes after. The train announcement echoed. Boarding, Seattle line. He picked up his bag, paused, then did something unexpected. He reached into his pocket and handed me something, a folded piece of paper. I wrote this last night, he said. I didn't know if I'd give it to you. I took it, didn't open it. Read it when you're ready, he added. He stepped back, no hug. No dramatic goodbye, just a nod, and then he walked onto the train. I stayed until it pulled away, until the platform emptied, until silence returned. Back in my car, I finally opened the letter, only one sentence, written carefully. No excuses, no promises, just truth. If I ever become a man you can be proud of, it will be because you taught me what dignity looks like even when it hurts. I folded the paper, placed it in my coat pocket. Driving home, the city woke up around me. coffee shops opening, buses rolling, life continuing, and I realized something quietly profound. I hadn't lost my son. I had changed the rules of loving him, love without blindness. Love without self-erasure, love with boundaries. Back at the shop, I unlocked the door. Sunlight spilled across the fabric. The machines hummed. The world moved on. I brewed coffee, stoneware mug, same one. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Life didn't change overnight. That's something nobody tells you. After the big moments, after the confrontations, after the goodbyes that feel like endings, life just keeps going. The morning after Orion left, I woke up at the same time, made coffee, opened the shop, threaded the needle. No dramatic emptiness, no collapse, just space. For years, my days had been filled with worry disguised as love. Did he eat? Did he call? Did he need me? Now there was nothing to manage, nothing to fix, and that silence was louder than grief. The first week passed quietly. Customers came in. Fittings happened. Hems were pinned. One bride laughed too loudly. Another cried in the mirror. Life stitching itself together, one small moment at a time. Clementina stopped by one afternoon. She brought lunch, nothing fancy, sandwiches and iced tea. We sat on overturned fabric crates. "How are you really?" she asked. I thought about it. "I feel lighter," I said slowly. "And guilty for feeling that way." She nodded. "My therapist says relief doesn't mean you didn't love someone," she said. "It means you stopped drowning." That sounded right. 2 weeks later, Cornelius called. "Seattle's expensive," he said. He found a shared apartment. "Warehouse job starts Monday." "He called you?" I asked. "Yes," Cornelius replied. He didn't ask for money, just advice. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That mattered. At night, I still thought about him, but the thoughts were different now. Not panicked, not desperate, curious. I wondered if he cooked, if he cleaned, if he was lonely. But I didn't reach for my phone, because love doesn't always mean contact. Sometimes it means restraint. A month passed, then 2, then 3. I received a postcard. Seattle skyline, gray clouds. A short message, still standing, still working, still learning. "No, I miss you. No, I'm sorry, just honesty." I put it in the drawer, didn't reply, not yet. One evening, while closing the shop, a woman stopped at the door, late 40s. Tired eyes, a tight smile. "Are you Zenobia?" she asked. "Yes, my name is Marlene," she said. "I heard your story about your son." I stiffened. "I don't share personal matters," I replied. She shook her head quickly. "No, no, nothing like that. I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" I asked. "My daughter is married to a man who disrespects me," she said. "I've been swallowing it for years. Your story made me realize I don't have to." Her voice broke. "I thought strength meant silence," she continued. "But you showed me it means boundaries." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. That night I sat alone with my coffee. Stoneware mug, same one, and I understood something new. Pain shared honestly doesn't disappear, but it transforms. 6 months after Orion left, winter arrived early. The shop was slower, hands colder. Days shorter, one afternoon, a letter arrived. Not a postcard, an envelope, Seattle postmark. I didn't open it right away. Old habit. When I finally did, the letter was longer than expected. No excuses, no self-pity. Just details. He wrote about waking up at 5 a.m., about the warehouse floor, about sore muscles. He wrote about therapy, about learning to sit with discomfort, about how easy it is to lie and how hard it is not to. He didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't ask to come home, didn't ask for anything. He ended with one sentence: "I don't know if I'm becoming a good man yet, but I'm finally becoming an honest one." I folded the letter slowly, sat with it. That night, for the first time since everything happened, I wrote back just 3 sentences. "I received your letter. I'm glad you're working. Keep going." Nothing more, nothing less, and that was enough. Spring arrived quietly. Cherry blossoms bloomed outside the shop. Clementina graduated. Cornelius cried at the ceremony. I clapped the loudest. One afternoon, Clementina hugged me tightly. "You know," she said, "you taught me something without trying." "What's that?" I asked. "That women don't have to disappear to keep the peace." I smiled. That lesson took me a long time, too. At night, when I locked up the shop, I felt something unfamiliar. Pride, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that sits deep in your bones. I hadn't won, I hadn't lost, I had chosen myself. The call came on a Thursday, late afternoon. That in-between hour when the day hasn't ended yet, but your body already feels tired. I was closing the shop early. Rain had been coming down all day, slow, gray, persistent. The phone rang, Seattle area code. My chest tightened. "Mama," Orion said. His voice sounded different, not panicked, but not steady either. "What happened?" I asked. Silence, long enough for my mind to run wild. "I messed up," he said finally. I closed my eyes, not in anger, in acceptance. "Tell me what kind of messed up," I said calmly. I didn't lie, he said quickly. I didn't steal, I didn't hurt anyone. Pause, but I froze. That was new. At work, he continued. There was an incident. A supervisor cutting corners, safety stuff. I listened, didn't interrupt. I saw it, he said, knew it was wrong, but I didn't say anything. My heart sank not because of what he did, because I understood exactly why. Someone got hurt, I asked. Not badly, he replied. Broken wrist could have been worse. And now, I asked. They're investigating, he said, and I keep replaying it in my head. There it was, the real fear, not punishment, identity. I promised myself I wouldn't be that guy again, he said, the one who stays quiet to survive. I leaned against the counter. Rain tapped against the windows. What did you do after? I asked. I reported it, he said. Yesterday that mattered, and now they're watching me, he added, like I'm trouble. Or like you're honest, I said. He laughed weakly. Honest doesn't always pay the bills. No, I agreed, but it lets you sleep. There was a long pause. I didn't call to ask you what to do, he said. I called because I needed you to know. I know, I replied, and I did. After we hung up, I sat alone in the shop. Lights off, rain still falling, and I realized something important. Growth doesn't mean you stop struggling. It means you struggle differently. That night, I didn't replay the past. I replayed his voice, the way he didn't hide, the way he owned the moment. 2 weeks later, another letter arrived, short, typed. From the company, they thanked him for reporting the violation, said it didn't align with company culture. Then came the line that mattered. We are terminating your employment effective immediately. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then folded it carefully. I didn't call him right away. I waited, because rescuing him now would undo everything. 3 days later, he called me, voice steady, tired. They fired me, he said. I know, I replied. You knew? Yes. Why didn't you call? He asked. Because this is the part you have to walk through, I said. Not around. Silence. Then, I think I understand, he said quietly. I didn't before, he admitted. But I do now. What do you understand? I asked. That doing the right thing doesn't guarantee safety, he said. It guarantees integrity. I smiled. He couldn't see it, but I smiled. What's your plan? I asked. I already applied to 2 places, he said. Smaller companies, less money, more transparency. Good, I said. And Mama, he added. Yes, I didn't feel alone this time, he said. Even though you didn't step in. That mattered more than any apology. Weeks passed. Seattle stayed gray. Atlanta warmed. He found another job, smaller warehouse, local company, long hours, no drama, no shortcuts. Clementina heard about it from Cornelius. She says he did the right thing, Clementina told me, and that scares her more than if he'd stayed silent. Why? I asked. Because it means he really is changing, she said. And that's complicated. Life has a way of becoming complicated when truth shows up. One evening, as I locked up the shop, I found myself thinking about Serafina, not with anger, with distance. Her trial date was coming up. Cornelius had mentioned it. I hadn't asked questions. But that night I wondered if Orion could face consequences and still choose honesty. What about her? The next morning, Cornelius called. They offered her a plea, he said. Reduced sentence if she shows remorse. And, I asked. She refused, he replied. Says she did nothing wrong. I closed my eyes. Some people never change, not because they can't, because they won't. That afternoon, I received a message from an unknown number. One sentence. I hear your son is struggling again. No name, no explanation, just that. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen. Then another message came. Some mistakes follow you forever. I knew exactly who it was, and I knew this story wasn't done with me yet. I didn't respond to the message. Not the first one, not the second, because some people don't want conversation. They want reaction. The phone buzzed again the next morning. Different number, same energy. Seattle didn't fix him. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. Fear had burned itself out a long time ago. I forwarded the messages to Cornelius. Then I blocked the number. 10 minutes later, Cornelius called. She's not supposed to have a phone, he said, but that doesn't mean she doesn't. So it is her, I replied. Yes, he said. And she's desperate. Desperate people don't seek forgiveness. They seek control. That afternoon, another message came, this time to my shop email. No greeting, no signature, just words meant to wound. Your son ruined my life. You think you're better than me? Wait until the truth comes out. I sat very still, and then I did something new. I didn't panic. I documented screenshots, timestamps, copies. Boundaries aren't loud, they're precise. That evening, Orion called. Mama, he said carefully, I think she's trying to reach you. She already has, I replied. I'm sorry, he said. She's been sending things to my old accounts too. What kind of things? I asked. Threats dressed up as pity, he said. Warnings, blame. I closed my eyes. She wants to scare us, I said, because fear is the only thing she has left. I won't engage, he said quickly. I promise. Good, I replied. Engagement feeds people like her. That night, I barely slept, not because I was afraid, because I was angry, not explosive anger, the kind that sharpens your thinking. The next morning, I met Cornelius at his lawyer's office. A quiet building, neutral walls, serious faces. She violated her communication restrictions, the lawyer said. That matters. What happens now? I asked. We file, he replied. And the court decides whether she wants more consequences. Cornelius looked tired, older than his years. She still doesn't think she did anything wrong, he said. She told her attorney she was misunderstood. I shook my head. Some people don't misunderstand reality, they rewrite it. 2 days later, the messages stopped, just like that. No apology, no explanation, no closure. Silence. That silence felt different, not peaceful, watchful. A week passed. Then another, no new messages, no surprises. Orion settled into his new job. Long hours, modest pay, steady routine. He didn't brag, didn't complain, he worked. One night he sent me a photo, not of himself. Of a small studio apartment, bare walls, fold-up table, single chair. It's not much, he wrote, but it's mine. I smiled. That mattered more than any skyline. Spring deepened into summer. The shop stayed busy. People came and went. Life stabilized. Then one afternoon, a certified letter arrived, court seal, my name. I sat down before opening it. Old instinct. Inside was a notice. Serafina's plea deal had been withdrawn. New charges added. Harassment. Witness intimidation. Violation of court orders. I read it twice, then folded it carefully. No triumph, no satisfaction, just finality. That night, Orion called again. I heard, he said. Yes, I replied. I want you to know, he said, I won't ever defend her again, not in my head, not in my heart. That's important, I said. And Mama, he added, thank you for not shielding me from this. Even when it scared you. It didn't scare me, I said honestly. It clarified things. We sat in silence together on the line, not awkward, not heavy, shared. After we hung up, I looked around my apartment, the same furniture. The same mug, the same view, but I wasn't the same woman. I had learned that love without boundaries is surrender. That silence isn't always peace. That survival doesn't require revenge. And most importantly, that walking away doesn't mean losing. Sometimes it means winning quietly. Time doesn't heal everything, but it does reveal what's real and what was never meant to last. By the time autumn returned to Atlanta, the noise had faded. No headlines, no gossip, no messages buzzing in the night, just ordinary days. The kind that once felt boring until you almost lose them. I woke up early like always. The city outside my window moved at its own pace. Buses groaned. A dog barked somewhere. Someone laughed on the sidewalk. Life. Uninterested in my past pain. And I realized something quietly powerful. The world didn't end when my family fell apart. It kept going. And so did I. The shop had changed, not physically, but energetically. I stopped sewing wedding dresses for people who wanted status. I started sewing for people who wanted comfort, truth, durability, women starting over, men rebuilding their lives, young people learning patience. I could feel the difference in the fabric. One afternoon, a young woman came in, early 20s, nervous, hands trembling. She placed a dress on the counter. My mom said, "You're honest," she said. I smiled. "Sometimes painfully so," I replied. She laughed, relieved. That mattered. We talked while I worked. She was getting married, scared, unsure, afraid of becoming invisible. I didn't tell her my story. I didn't need to. I just said this: don't shrink yourself to keep peace. Peace that requires you to disappear isn't peace. Her eyes filled with tears, and in that moment I understood my pain had become something useful. Cornelius visited less often. Age catches up quietly. But when he did come, he looked proud. "She's stronger," he said once. "Clementina," I nodded. I always knew she would be. Clementina wrote letters now, handwritten, careful, thoughtful. She never asked about Orion. I never brought him up. Some bridges don't need rebuilding, just distance. Orion called once a month, never more, never less. He didn't ask for money, didn't ask for forgiveness. He talked about work, about therapy, about learning how to sit with discomfort. I didn't know how loud my entitlement was, he admitted once, until I lost everything. That's how entitlement works, I said. It feels like oxygen until it's gone. He didn't argue, that was new. One evening, after closing the shop, I walked home slower than usual. The air smelled like rain and leaves. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something unexpected. Lightness, not happiness, peace. I wasn't waiting for apologies anymore. I wasn't replaying conversations in my head. I wasn't wondering if I should have done something differently, because I finally understood this truth. You can love someone deeply and still refuse to be destroyed by them. A letter arrived near Thanksgiving from the court, final sentencing. Serafina Vance convicted, incarcerated, no appeal pending. I read it once, then placed it in a drawer. No ceremony, no reaction. That chapter didn't deserve my energy anymore. That night, I set the table for one, cooked a simple meal. Lit a small candle. I didn't feel lonely. I felt complete. People misunderstand solitude. They think it's absence. It's not, it's clarity. Later that week, Orion called again. I'm coming home for Christmas, he said, not to stay. Just to see the city. I paused, then said the truth. That's fine. Would you want to have coffee? He asked carefully, not a demand, not an expectation, an invitation. I'll think about it, I replied. He accepted that, and that mattered. After the call, I sat with my stoneware mug, the same one, chipped at the rim, perfectly imperfect, and I realized something profound. This mug had outlasted betrayal, outlasted humiliation, outlasted silence, just like me. I didn't know what the future held, reconciliation, distance, something in between, but I wasn't afraid anymore, because no matter what happened next, I had myself, and that's when I understood the final lesson. You don't win by proving others wrong, you win by refusing to abandon yourself. That night I slept deeply. No dreams, no ghosts, just rest, and the next morning something unexpected happened. Something that would test everything I thought I had already survived. Something that would force one last choice, and this time there would be no silence. Christmas came quietly that year. No drama, no grand plans, no forced joy. Just cold mornings, muted lights, and the smell of pine drifting through the city. I didn't decorate much, a small wreath on the door, one string of warm lights in the window, nothing more. I wasn't trying to recreate old traditions. I was creating honest ones. 2 days before Christmas, Orion texted, I'm in town, no emojis, no pressure, just information. I stared at the message longer than I wanted to admit. Then I replied, coffee, tomorrow, 10 m. Henderson's. Henderson's bakery hadn't changed. Same cracked counter, same smell of sugar and butter, same uneven chairs. It felt right. I arrived early. Old habit. I chose a corner table, ordered coffee. The stoneware mug wasn't there, but the feeling was close. At exactly 10:03, Orion walked in, not rushed, not late, intentional. He looked different, not polished, not broken, grounded. Like someone who had learned how to carry his own weight. He spotted me, paused, then walked over slowly. Morning, Mama, he said, not dramatic, just real. Morning, I replied. He sat, didn't touch anything, didn't fidget, that mattered. We sipped coffee in silence, not awkward, respectful. I didn't know if you'd come, he said finally. I didn't know either, I replied. He nodded. I won't take that for granted. Good answer. He told me about Seattle, the rain. The warehouse, the long shifts, how anonymity had been humbling. No one cared who I thought I was, he said. They only cared if I showed up. And did you? I asked. Every day, he said. He didn't talk about Serafina, didn't blame her. Didn't rewrite history, he owned his part. That mattered more than apologies. I lost a lot, he said quietly, but I learned something. What? I asked. That entitlement feels like confidence until it costs you everything. I studied him. The way he spoke, the way he listened. He wasn't asking to come home. He wasn't asking for approval. He was showing me who he was becoming. I still don't expect forgiveness, he said, and I won't ask. Good, I replied. Because forgiveness isn't a transaction. He nodded. When we stood to leave, he hesitated, then said it. I know I don't get to ask this, but if I keep doing the work, maybe someday. I looked at him, really looked, and answered honestly. Someday isn't guaranteed, but it's possible. That was enough. As he walked away, I felt something shift, not relief, not joy, hope with boundaries. That evening, I received a call I didn't expect, from Clementina. I didn't know who else to tell, she said. My mother wrote me. My chest tightened. What did she say? Clementina exhaled shakily. She said I betrayed her, that I destroyed her life, that she'd forgive me if I visited. Silence filled the line. I don't know what to do, Clementina whispered. And in that moment, I realized this story wasn't finished yet, because sometimes the final test isn't about confrontation. It's about choosing who you no longer answer to. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and said the only truth that mattered. You don't owe her your pain. Clementina started crying, not loudly, not dramatically, just release. After the call, I sat alone. Lights low, city quiet, and I knew what was coming next. One final decision, one final boundary, one final act of self-respect. And when the last door closed, something new was finally going to open. The letter arrived in February, not mailed, slid under my shop door. No stamp, no return address, just my name, written in handwriting I knew too well, Serafina. I stood there for a long moment, scissors still in my hand, fabric draped over the table. I didn't rush, I didn't panic, I didn't open it right away. Because when you've survived the worst betrayals of your life, urgency loses its power. I locked the shop door, made coffee, sat down, stoneware mug, always. Then I opened the letter. Zenobia, I do not know how to begin this. Prison strips you of many things: pride, control, illusion, but it gives you time. And time forces truth. I stopped reading, let the words settle, then continued. I blamed you for everything, for Orion choosing you first, for reminding him who he really was. I told myself you were weak because you worked with your hands, but I was wrong. You were strong enough to build something honest. I built nothing real. My hands were steady. My heart was not racing. That surprised me. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am asking for peace. If you ever wish to speak to me, I will listen. If not, I will understand. Serafina, I folded the letter once, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into the drawer. Not because I needed time, but because I already had my answer. Some conversations come too late. That same afternoon, Clementina came by the shop. She looked lighter, stronger, like someone who had reclaimed her spine. She wrote me too, she said. I figured, I replied. She wants to see me. And Clementina shook her head. I don't need closure from someone who never protected me. I smiled. That's wisdom, I said. She hesitated. Then asked softly, do you ever feel guilty? For what? I asked. For letting things fall apart. I thought for a moment. No, I said. I feel responsible for choosing truth. That evening, Orion called, not emotional. Not dramatic, direct. I got promoted, he said. Shift supervisor. That's good, I replied. I didn't tell you because I needed approval, he said. I just wanted you to know. We talked for 15 minutes, not about the past. Not about forgiveness, about work, weather's life. That mattered more than apologies. A week later, I received another letter. This one handwritten, messy, uneven. Orion, Mama, I don't know if you'll ever trust me again. But I'm learning how to live without expecting it. I finally understand something you tried to teach me my whole life. Nothing built on shortcuts lasts. I'm still working. I hope someday you'll see that. Orion, I didn't cry. I didn't rush to respond. I smiled, because growth doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up quietly, consistently. Spring came. The shop stayed busy. Life moved forward. One morning, Cornelius stopped by, older, slower, still sharp. I'm selling the house, he said, moving closer to Clementina. That's good, I replied. She's strong, he said. Thanks to you? No, I corrected gently. She's strong because she chose herself. On my 61st birthday, I closed the shop early. No party, no fuss, just dinner with a few friends, women who knew my story, women who had survived their own. One of them asked me something that stayed with me. If you could go back, would you change anything? I thought long and hard. Then answered no, because pain taught me boundaries, loss taught me truth, and silence taught me strength. That night I stood at my window, city lights blinking, coffee warm, and I understood something fully for the first time. I didn't lose a son, I lost an illusion, and in exchange I gained myself. Serafina lost everything she tried to control. Reginald faded into the background of his own choices. Orion lost his shortcuts and learned how to stand. Clementina reclaimed her life, and me, I kept my dignity. Sometimes justice isn't loud, it doesn't scream, it doesn't humiliate, it simply removes the mask and lets people face who they really are. If you're listening to this and you've been betrayed, if you've been minimized, if someone tried to make you feel small so they could feel powerful, hear this. Walking away with your integrity intact is not weakness, it is victory. I still drink my coffee from the same stoneware mug, still sew dresses for brides who believe in love, still wake up every morning grateful, not because my life is perfect, but because it's honest, and that is enough. The end. If this story touched you, if you've lived something similar, or if you're still standing after betrayal, you're not alone, and you never were.